Most people try to use AI today by asking to perform individual tasks. So for example, write something, summarize something, analyze a document. But the real opportunity with AI today isn't individual tasks. It's designing repeatable systems and repeatable workflows. And now anyone can do that. But there's a secret that I'm going to share with you today in order to do it well. And that secret is that most knowledge work that appears to be a single job is actually a sequence of smaller processes. Once you can separate those processes, you can then build workflows where AI handles the large majority of the work automatically. Today, I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to take a real example, writing a proposal, break it into its component parts, design a workflow around it, and then build that workflow live. So stick around if you want to see that. So let's start by breaking down the writing process. Let's start with the underlying structure. So we'll create a diagram titled The Components of Writing, or of the writing process. When someone says write something, that instruction actually includes several different stages of work. First, on the left-hand side, there's research. That'd be identifying requirements and gathering information, doing research. Then there is structure, and that's organizing how the writing will be presented or outlining the document. And then there's drafting, which is writing the actual text. And finally, there's review, evaluating, editing, refining the work. So let's visualize that. Once we see a task as a sequence of activities like this, we can start designing systems that support each stage. That's the key idea behind building AI workflows. Okay, let's try applying this to a real-world workflow. Let's imagine a traditional engineering firm called Atlas Infrastructure Group. Let's say they design bridges, airport terminals, and transportation infrastructure. Like many firms that compete for government contracts, they frequently respond to requests for proposals, or RFPs. So let's go ahead and map out their proposal process. Let's create a workflow diagram titled Manual Proposal Process at Atlas Infrastructure Group. Let's include these steps arranged from left to right. The first is read the RFP. The second one would be identify the requirements from the RFP. The third would be create a proposal outline. The fourth would be write a draft of the proposal. And lastly would be checking for compliance and editing. Okay, well, this is the typical manual workflow. Once we recognize the components of the process, we can design a system that supports them. Before we build anything, we need to design the new workflow. So we want to understand how the human and the AI agent will work together. And so let's go ahead and try to create that architecture. Let's create a diagram called AI Supported Proposal Workflow. We're going to include two columns, a blue one for human and a green one for AI agent. And we're going to show the workflow stages and indicate who performs each step. So for example, let's say the AI agent responsibilities would be to analyze the document and extract the requirements from the RFP. It would then generate the proposal structure and outline, and then it would draft sections using the knowledge library. And then we will list the human responsibilities, which would be to review the proposal structure before the draft is started, and then review and refine the draft to get into a final form. Okay, great. So this diagram presents the system we're about to build. The AI agent handles the structured parts of the workflow, and then the human focuses on strategy, review, refinement. So now I think we can go ahead and build it. So let's talk about prerequisites. And one of those, I think, in this particular use case would be a knowledge library. Before the workflow can generate proposals, it needs access to the organization's knowledge. So for the Atlas Infrastructure Group, we could we could say, we need to create a structured knowledge library for Atlas Infrastructure Group. We'll look at the chat above, but again, they're a civil engineering firm that designs bridges, airports, and transportation infrastructure. So for their knowledge library, they would need to have, let's say, project case studies, engineering methods, safety and compliance, let's say company qualifications, and key personnel profiles. And so we're going to want to populate each section with example entries that are appropriate for a large engineering firm responding to government infrastructure RFPs. So let's go ahead and create a collection of notes that represent this knowledge library. Of course, if you were working to create this in your own organization or for your own workflow, you would likely have these artifacts ready and you would make them part of your knowledge library. But in this case, we're going to develop synthetic versions of these documents to simulate the process. Okay, great. It's come up with a plan to create this collection, this knowledge library. Okay, great. It's completed the creation of the knowledge library, and we can take a look at it. We can see the knowledge library includes things like quality management certifications, project case studies, engineering methods. And now finally, we can create the new workflow. And we'll do that just by talking to the agent. And then again, the agent's going to create a plan, we'll create the workflow, and then we'll be able to run and test it. So let's go ahead and create the workflow based on the diagram that we created with the AI agent processes. And you're going to use your tools to create that. Essentially, the user is going to upload an RFP document as a note. Then we're going to have it have the agent analyze the RFP. Then we'll have a tool that analyzes the RFP and extracts a structured list of all the requirements that require written responses. So we'll use a template or a persona to perform that activity. Then we'll have a clear list of the requirements that the proposal has to address. And so we'll generate the structure of that proposal in the workflow by having the workflow create a document outline that the user will review. And then the user will review the draft document to ensure it's in compliance with the qualifications. As the document's being drafted, it will use the knowledge library created for the Atlas Infrastructure Group. And so make sure the workflow leverages that. So again, we should see a plan that's going to actually create the workflow that we had designed earlier. Okay, so it's come up with the proposed workflow. We're going to upload an RFP document as a note. It's going to extract the requirements. It's going to create a proposal outline note. The proposal writer is going to draft the document from the knowledge library, and that's going to enable a human to review it for completeness and accuracy. Okay, let's see the workflow in action. We've uploaded a PDF that's a request for proposal issued by the New York State Department of Transportation for an engineering and construction firm to submit proposals for the Mid-Hudson Bridge Structural Integrity and Seismic Resilience project. So what we're going to do is actually select the proposal workflow and then run that workflow. So we can see it's developed a plan to execute the workflow and is beginning to execute that workflow. You can see the workflow is quite complex. Okay, that's pretty amazing. The plan completed successfully with 28 tasks. It did the analysis and it created a draft proposal. So let's just take a look at what it did here. Obviously, this is a synthetic example, but let's just take a look. Okay, so here's what it came up with. We can see the document has an executive summary. It's actually noted where in the request for proposal certain requirements are coming from. If you go to the edit section, you'll see that it's divided it up into an executive summary in 4 volumes. related to requirements identified in the request for proposal. And as you go through the various sections, you'll also see that information as it's pulled from the underlying knowledge library will also include a link to the note so it can be verified. And all of this can be edited either by typing or by just speaking to the AI agent and making those changes. This example represents potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings for the organization in question. But it also represents a much bigger idea. The opportunity today with AI isn't simply to have it perform tasks, it's using natural language to design systems that integrate AI into the workflow with humans. When knowledge work is broken down into stages like research, structure, drafting, and review, then we can build workflows where AI supports those repeatable components and humans focus on verification, accuracy, judgment. The most valuable skill today isn't simply using the tools, it's learning how to design the systems that use them. So look forward to sharing more with you on this channel, and thanks for watching.